Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, your Ultra Agent of Ultra Action, the ultimate in Ultra Action. X7, the host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters, and today is Thursday, which is live action television series review day. That's a really long title. Be that as it may, we're going to be talking about episode 12 and episode 13 of Ultraman. And episode 13 is mostly a firestorm. Really. I've never met anyone that said it's their favorite Ultraman episode of their favorite Ultra monster. No one. Be that as it may, before we get into it, please like, share, subscribe, vote in the poll, leave a comment if there is a poll. Maybe I'll have one just making fun of this episode 13. I doubt it. But grab yourself your bowl of hummus of perfection, your favorite delivery method, and let's get into it. Our first episode today is Cry of the Mummy. So let's get into that, and we'll hear just a little more of this.
Ultraman, Ultraman, here he comes from the sky.
Those are the Serendipity Singers singing the Ultraman theme song from the United Artists, release from 1967 here in the States. And The Cry of the Mummy, which is an unusual episode because it involves a mummy. Look at this. They did a lot of on-site shooting here in this episode. The Science Patrol has been called to investigate a strange mummy. Dun dun dun. There's Professor Iwamoto, Dr. Iwamoto, played by Akihiko Hirata, of course. He's in charge because he's a professor or a doctor of science. And they find this strange-looking design on the side in the cavern. They don't know what it is. They should. They're the Science Patrol. But they bring the mummy back to wherever this is, science headquarters, the headquarters of science, and they're examining it. Here you can see it, but it's a very strange-looking mummy. It's not human. It's never, it's kind of ape-like, definitely ape-like, but it's got pointed ears, and it's mummified. So it's supposed to be about 7,000 years old. I don't know. Does it look 7,000 years old? Strangely enough, they're going to try to. It's very well preserved, and they're discussing what benefits this mummy could have to mankind in preservation. Little do they know. Look at the old phones back here. There's two of them on stands, which is unusual. Old phones. And the mummy got zapped by electricity and, of course, came to life. Eyes light up. That's how you can tell. Always can tell when a mummy's alive is if the eyes light up or if they have no eyes at all. Look at Karis. And he approaches people like he's saying he is sorry, the way Apu does to Homer in the classic episode where Apu loses his job. Who needs the Quickie Mart? I don't know if that's the title of it, but it should be. Unfortunately, he throws around a lot of the guards and kills them. Mummy Man, that's his official name, just zaps people. But he's hulking out there and bursting out of his mummy wrap, which is kind of a cool touch. We don't know a thing about him. Anything. They call the Science Patrol, which I've been meaning to mention that the phone itself sounds like Ghidra's roar, which is a nice touch. And, if you didn't see, it'd been a year since Ghidra had been on the big screen. And I don't know how they handled syndicated movies in Japan if they showed them on television, but so you wouldn't be so noticeable. Probably more people thought it was Ghidra had the Science Patrol phone ring than Ghidra's roar. Who knows? But there's Ito, and off they go. Nice on location shot again. Just beautiful area here that they filmed in. Hayata showing concern, and you can tell these Blu-rays. Once again, his wannabe mustache is not getting covered up. And as soon as the mummy has thrown around and possibly killed several guards and or army men, Arashi comes up, zaps it once, and down it goes. Of course, when the mummy dies, Dodongo shows up. And this is Dodongo, which is a monster as cumbersome as its name. It's kind of supposed to be a dragon ish, but anyway, that's the design that we saw earlier. Here's a nice process shot where these are people here running. You can't quite tell, but there's no line, so it's beautiful. They run away. There's the body, and one, two, at least three dead or severely injured guards. Fuji calls them to say, "Hey, there's a giant monster, a four-legged monster," which is the first time they've ever done one with two men in a suit. I pity that guy who was the rump. And there's the VTOL blasting off, and it's taking our guys. Dodongo has the same laser rays or eyeball rays, as Spider-Man called Superman's heat vision at one point, or X-ray vision. No, heat vision, eyeball rays. At one point in time, when they in their first classic team up, and it makes things explode. Kaboom! I don't know who's trying to blow you up, Mr. Jellyhead Man, but he better not. And here's a nice shot-ish of Dodongo. You can definitely see that it's one guy standing up. I don't know if he was flapping the arms. That was a cramped suit, especially with one guy probably holding on to you, trying to make sure that they walk together. They had to practice this a lot, or wouldn't have looked as good as it did. And here is this is a force field. That's its power battery, I guess. But caution, don't press that button. And so they're landing, and out pops. There's still more fire. There's a lot of fire in these two episodes. Ito or Arashi just shoots the Dodongo right in the eye and blinds it. It's kind of mean. It's kind of mean to these both of them. I mean, granted, the Mummy Man was aggressive, and the monster is aggressive, but we don't know why or where they came from. Look at there's his force field at work. This would later on show up in Ultra 7 around the TDF's vehicles. I had forgotten that they had that in common. Ultra 7 isn't strictly a sequel to Ultraman, but retconning has its effect, right? Well, just great effects. Very imaginative. More gunshots. I just like them. Everyone's here. The gang's all here. There's nobody at headquarters, apparently. And Hayata runs between these two rocks to turn into Ultraman. Nobody pays attention. And then, okay, so it's not the best shot. This is where he lands on him. There you go. Of course, they had to do the obligatory riding. He actually hits Dodongo in the flanks a couple times and then gets thrown off. I love this shot, though. I don't know if they did it before, but the Spacium beam is about to be fired. By now, they've blown out both of Dodongo's eyes, so it's flailing about blindly. The Spacium beam zap, and Dodongo's dead. So Ultraman flies off, and this is another rare shot of him turning into Hayata or something. We don't know where Ultraman's physical body goes. Apparently, you think it's inside of him, but maybe it's just fades into another dimension. There's somebody probably knows that. Later on, at the end of the episode, Ito would say that Hayata's standing there like Ultraman. They're all talking about it. Arashi's been injured in the blast. And there's Dodongo, just dead. Now, what happened? The episode just ends. We don't know what happens to the body, but that's it. Okay, so let's get another bit of music.
Ultraman, watch our hero fly. In a super jet he comes from a billion miles away.
A billion.
From a distant planet.
So once again, Serendipity Singers lasted quite a while and had many, many, many members. I think I've talked about seeing a special on theirs when they were supposed to be showing a monster movie. They've been on my list for quite a while. I know it wasn't their fault. It was the channel's fault, but be that as it may, we're going into the worst episode of Ultraman, of the original run anyway. Petroleum SOS or Oil SOS, depending on how you want to transliterate petroleum. It's This one says oil SOS, but so it starts out this way with a fire and a lot of fire. Here's our random drunk guy. Now these people happened a lot in Japanese children's programs because they were supposed to be funny. He's late at night. He's by himself, and he sees something weird in the water. Then an oil truck blows up, and there it is. So that's the head of Pestar, which is the monster's name. It's the oil drinker or oil monster Pestar. Uh, the is a combination of petroleum and starfish, so not the greatest name. Just a pest. It's got a bat face that lives in the water, but we'll see more of it in a bit. And it's drinking oil and petroleum products. And probably propane and propane accessories if it does, but it's destroying ships to get at it. There's a nice shot of a flying ship. I mean, they had a lot of flame on this episode. I mean, that's where their budget went. So there's Pestar, a giant starfish with one, two, three, four, five, six, 8 limbs and joined in the middle by the head, the bat head. The starfish, weird thing, has a bat head. Don't blame me. And here, they have really nice sets in both of these episodes, though. Um, this is they get to a refinery, of course, and kaboom! More flame, and not more flame. Everyone's worried here, but they fly in. They shoot Pestar once with a missile. Pestar can also breathe flame, which is not surprising since it's full of oil and gas. Probably breathes flame from both ends, if you know what I mean. Yes, I know. You always know what I mean. They shoot. There it is. I tried to get a good look at it. It's just such a boring monster. It's really well detailed, but it looks like it has 3 legs, maybe. I thought it had 2, but it's just the most boring monster. The missile hits it. Down goes Pestar. Down goes Pestar. And they land, and they've got to figure out how to put out all these flames because the whole place is on fire. And I mean, the whole set was on fire. And navigating, I don't know how the crew did it, navigating strings and wires and rubber suits that will melt with fire. So that's impressive. So I think that's Ito holding the hose, trying to use this much water to put out an oil fire, which just isn't going to work. You have to use something different, sand or chemicals, or trying to make it blow itself out. But he tries. He gets knocked down. This is how Ultraman turns. Using the beta capsule, Hayata becomes Ultraman, almost off screen. He runs through all of this. Now he's in a rubber costume. I'm sure that Ben Furata was sweating his ultra cap off at this point in time and trying to stay away from the fires. He's still got his elfin boots on here, but this is the first of the 13 episodes. So next time we see Ultraman, he's going to look a little different. Pestar wakes up briefly and gets zapped again and dies. That's it. The end. More fire. So there he is. I mean, he had to be very careful running around that set with all this flame and explosions going off. And he puts it out. He has a heretofore unknown power of shooting water out of his hand. I believe this is the only time this happened. Here's a little better. I'm sure the hose is back here and you can't see it. They photographed it very well, but it is dripping. And then fires out, monster's dead, everyone's happy. Ultraman flies off. They leave, Hayata shows up mysteriously, and they go home. That's it. That is it. Pestar, unbelievably enough, would show up in episode 10 of Ultraman the Ultimate Hero as Powered Pestar. Ultraman Powered is his Japanese name. Episode 10 is named Deadly Starfish. It looks a little better, but it's still a ridiculous looking monster. I can't even believe that they would do that. So many great Ultra monsters, and they choose Pestar. It's more crustacean-like, but you're not going to get a picture of it. We may review some of these other Ultramen, the US and the Australian one. They're only 13 episodes, and they're interesting. But be that as it may, my fellow agents, that was our 2-episode review here. We won't have another episode this bad. Kamakujira is headed up the whale, the oyster eating monster. And there's not a fight scene in that really either. There's no fight scene in this. Ultraman just zaps him. The Science Patrol blows him, shoots a missile at him, and down he goes. Mm. So, until our next assignment, just beware of any giant starfish you see. They may be a mutant and drink all the gas in your car. I don't know what they'll do. Just don't watch it. Until our next assignment, this is X7 signing off.